Okay, folks, I need to get a couple of housekeeping matters out of the way. And right up front, if you have children in the vicinity, it's my suggestion that you view this without them, because there will be a lot of expletives uttered by me. I will seek to try to keep it down to a minimum, but I'm going to be honest with you, as pissed off as I am, I may not be able to completely keep the expletives out of my video. Now, to the housekeeping. I've made several videos over the past 24 to 48 hours regarding the situation down in Charlottesville, Virginia. And I don't know why. Well, I take that back. I guess I do know why. I have come under attack by a lot of these white supremacist groups and people. And to be honest with you, I don't really give a shit. They are putting various comments up on my videos, and I got plenty of time, so as I am coming across them, I am removing their comments and obviously blocking the commenters. Now, as far as bodily harm is concerned, I'm a peaceful person, very peaceful person, but I also believe in self-defense. And although I am not military trained, I have a ton of people in my family that are military trained. And they may not have put me through everything that they went through, but I've gone through enough. And my adult loved ones have been taught to be able to defend themselves. So if anybody decides that they want to do bodily harm to me, just realize that there are consequences. Now, for those of you out there who do not have any kind of training, I suggest that you go and take a class on being able to handle a weapon. The classes are not expensive. The last class that I took cost $325. It is well worth it. Please, for your own safety and more so for your own peace of mind, look into taking a class. Normally what happens is you will have an instructor who will give you approximately 12 hours of training at a cost of, again, approximately $300 or so. The training is spread out, in my case, over 3 months. So you get 4 hours worth of training. You are instructed to practice what you have been trained in for the next 30 days. Then you are given another 4 hours of training. Again, practice for 30 days. And the final 4 hours of training and instructed to practice for 30 days. After the third training session, you are tested as to your proficiency on all of the training that you received, and you are graded and given instruction on where improvement needs to be made. Again, well worth the money. Now, with that out of the way, the picture you see in front of you is a picture of the Southern Poverty Law Center.org, their hate map. And all of the symbols are of groups that were within the various states. Now, those groups include Holocaust deniers, black separatists, i.e. the Nation of Islam, neo-Nazi National Alliance, anti-Muslim groups, white nationalists, racist skinheads, Christian identity, whatever that is, the Ku Klux Klan, radical traditional Catholicism, anti-LGBT, anti-immigrant, neo-Confederates, again, Christian identity, mentioned that, Nation of Islam, and they got a catch-all which just states general hate. I suggest that you go online, bring up this map, check out the state that you live in, and check out what is around you so that you know the level of preparedness you will need in case you fall into one of the groups that these guys are protesting against. And when I say protesting, I mean orally and physically protesting against. Now, with that being said, that situation in Charlottesville, North Carolina was organized by this group, Unite the Right. It's a closed group, and this page comes off of Facebook. So there are approximately 3,600 members, and the principal member, I believe, is Mr. Jason, no, I'm sorry, that's not him, Jason Kessler. Let me go back. Mr. Kessler had the wherewithal, after everything went down, including the murder of the woman in Charlottesville, to attempt to hold an outdoor news conference. Well, he got chased away by the anti-protesters, and it took the police to be able to get him out of there. Now, on this particular site, he did film, and I can't call it an interview, but I guess his statements, and I'm not going into showing exactly what he said. If you're interested, you can go to Facebook, Unite the Right Worldwide, and you will be able to view his comments for yourself. Not even going to deal with that. But I just want to let you know that this particular group organized all of the neo-Nazi, skinhead, alternate right, and I'm never going to use that term again, white supremacists, white nationalists, people that came into Charlottesville, Virginia. It was organized. They drove in, they flew in, they took various modes of transportation to get there. And there were over 1,500 people in support of the Unite the Right position. Now, this is a picture, and let me, of what went down on Friday night. Now, the Unite the Right people had a permit in order to march on Saturday, but they decided on Friday night that they wanted to send a message. So they went to, I guess, your local Walmart, Ace Hardware's, whatever, and were able to get these tiki torches. And they marched into Independence Park. As you can see, there's a statue, I believe that's a statue of Robert E. Lee, and did that in order to make a statement. Now, if you are black and you see marchers with torches headed your way, in my opinion, in my racial memory, that spells danger. That spells KKK. That spells I need to get my ass out of here because these people are coming for my life. Translation, that spells terrorism, fear. And that's exactly what these guys wanted to do. They wanted to generate fear for everyone that was not of their ilk. Now, after they assembled here, which was on the University of Virginia campus, they decided that they wanted to make a further statement. So what did they do? They marched over to a church on the campus and basically terrorized approximately 900 people that were meeting in order to, I'm assuming, get a little bit of spiritual guidance within the church for the task that was at hand for the next day. It took the Charlottesville police to get these guys out of there and to protect those 900 petitioners. And they are part of a group as well. Sorry, folks, I had to take a time out. Excuse me. The other group, you would think, based on all the video footage out there, was the Black Lives Matter group. And yes, Black Lives Matter was represented there in Charlottesville. But the group that the Unite the Right people were fighting against basically was Antifa, or the anti-fascist group. Now, it's been reported over various news networks that the neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, were openly carrying firearms. And based on what I can ascertain, that is true. And it wasn't illegal because Virginia is an open carry state. At the same time, it was also reported that the Antifa people were walking around with weapons of their own, bats, and other items. Now, I did come across one picture of a person who was either affiliated with the BLM movement or the Antifa movement, probably the BLM movement, that was using an aerosol can with a cigarette lighter in order to create a mini flamethrower. But using that as a weapon basically is ineffectual. Okay, so in the interest of fairness, that's a picture that I found of a black gentleman, I'll call him a gentleman, using an aerosol can and flames coming out of the can towards the white supremacists that appear to be trying to get out of, and I believe the park is Emancipation Park. So both sides had some stuff, but it was not reported that the Antifa group or the BLM group were open carrying, where it was reported that the Unite the Right, KKK, etc., were definitely open carrying, and the law enforcement that was there, as minimal as it was concerned because they didn't know which direction fire was going to come from. Now, back to the original photo that I showed you. And again, it's the photo of the march. This was televised on Friday night. And I don't know about you, but the governor and the mayor did have conversation after they were aware of what happened Friday night. And they issued a statement that they would be prepared for a rally the next day. Now, if I saw something like this and I were the mayor, well, actually the governor of the state, I would have called out and deployed the National Guard throughout that area in order to keep the confusion down. If you recall in Ferguson, that's exactly what they did. They had the National Guard out there, state police, and everybody they could think of out there even before the marches and protests began. But those were black people. These are white people, so obviously they didn't want to ruffle their feathers. But if they wanted to be proactive, that's exactly what they would have done. Well, they didn't. And you know the history. Now, various right-wing websites, blogs, etc., have chimed in on this. And they specifically chimed in after the mealy-mouthed statements by Donald Trump. Now, in the past, the number one, and I hate to say it, but alternate right blog website used to be Stormfront. Stormfront was started and run by Don Black and his family, and for years they were the number one white supremacist website. Well, guess what, folks? There's a new sheriff in town as far as the white supremacists are concerned, and it's called the Daily Stormer, and it is run by an Andrew Aglin. This particular group of neo-Nazis, etc., puts Stormfront to shame. This group has ties not only throughout the United States, but they have relationships with a lot of the European neo-Nazi groups, including Germany, Greece, the United Kingdom, France, and a few other Northern European countries. I'm not going to do all the work for you, but it's a suggestion that you go to the Stormfront website, take a look at it, and then take a look at the Daily Stormer's website, which graphically is vastly superior, and the information that is put out to their various members, again, is pretty much superior to that of Stormfront. It was the Daily Stormer that put out a tweet after Donald Trump gave his mealy-mouthed comments, and they stated that they didn't feel that Donald Trump was talking to them and that he was more than likely in support of them. Now, various people have come out in support of Donald Trump's lack of clarity on his statements regarding the situation in Charlottesville. But this one person kind of stuck out in my mind. And I'm going to show you a picture of this guy. Sorry. There he is. That is a picture of Tom Bocek. I'm going to see if I can darken it up a little bit so we can get a better look. There you go. That's a picture of Tom Bocek. And I would suggest that you go online and find the CNN interview that he did today and listen to him, because this guy reminded me of this guy, Stephen Miller. Again, I suggest that you go online and look at on one occasion, and he gave an interview on another occasion with, I believe it was either CNN or ABC with George Stephanopoulos. I think it was Stephanopoulos. If you watch both of those interviews, in my mind, these two individuals are clones of each other. They both appear to project their belief that Donald Trump is king and lord over them and the entire country, and whatever he basically says is the right thing, and there is nothing else. I mean, when I watched this guy this morning, I wanted to throw up. I'm going to be honest with you. It was that bad as far as everything that Jake Tapper posed to him. He basically wanted to turn it around and indicate how strong Donald Trump was and how he did the right thing, et cetera, et cetera. Go check out this particular news clip for yourself, and then check out that Stephen Miller clip. You'll see what I'm talking about. Now, let's get to this gentleman. His name is James Alex Fields, 20 years old, from Maumee, Ohio. Remember I told you that the Unite the Right people organized this? Well, this gentleman drove 500 miles from Ohio to Charlottesville, Virginia, in order to participate in the white supremacist rally, and then the next day to get into his vehicle and with malice and forethought drive his vehicle into the anti-protest people, and his actions caused the death of one woman and the injury of, I believe it was either 15 or 19 others. He drove 500 miles to do this. He's 20 years old. This guy has not lived long enough to have suffered anywhere near the damage that these alternate right groups claim that they have suffered. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, now let's slide back to this. While these people were marching, they were shouting various inflammatory, racist epithets. But they were also chanting blood and soil. Now, what exactly does that mean? I'm glad you asked. Hang on one second. Blood and soil, the meaning of the Nazi slogan chanted by white nationalists in Charlottesville, Virginia. One of the rallying cries of the white nationalist demonstrators in Virginia this weekend was originally a racist philosophy disseminated in Nazi Germany. White supremacists and other far-right wing groups marched in Charlottesville, Virginia on Saturday as part of the Unite the Right rally protesting the removal of a Confederate monument. Clashes with their critics turned violent. One woman was killed and 19 others were seriously injured when a car intentionally rammed through a group of counter-protesters. Before the attack, the right-wing marchers were filmed chanting blood and soil, a Nazi slogan which held that ethnicity is based solely on blood descent and the territory one maintains. Now, I will pose to you, well, let me finish reading the comment. Though a German expression decades before Hitler came to power, blood and soil was popularized by the prominent Nazi theorist Richard Walther Daré in 1930, 3 years before he became Hitler's Minister of Food and Agriculture. Daré maintained that the preservation of the Nordic race was inextricably tied to Germany's agrarian population. The idea painted farmers as national heroes who protected the purity of Germany. Under Daré, and with Hitler's support, the Nazi Party embraced blood and soil as one of its chief ideologies. Now, with all of that being said, blood and soil, I would submit that these motherfuckers, half of them weren't even in the United States, and I'm talking about their families, until the 1900s, if not a little later. I will further submit that black people have occupied the lands throughout the South and had more blood spilled than any other group in this country. So if anybody had the right to say blood and soil, it would be black people. We have shed our blood into the soil more times than can be counted. So anyway, that takes care of the blood and soil part. Okay? Now, folks, this is getting out of hand. It's already out of hand. And anytime a Trump supporter goes on national TV, excuse me, they either want to deflect away from the issue of these white supremacists by putting out the statement that, well, they weren't the only ones, and Antifa was out there being just as violent, which is not true. They want to circle around and state that Mr. Trump was talking to the white supremacists, and we just have a problem because for whatever reason we need for him to mention the name white supremacists and Ku Klux Klan, etc., and they can't understand why we have a problem because Mr. Trump didn't say that. Well, Mr. Trump never had a problem talking about radical Islamic terrorism, so why would he have a problem in stating radical white supremacist terrorism? For some reason, those words were not able to come out of his mouth. I'm sorry, folks, but I believe that this is going to get worse before it gets better. The number of various hate groups has been steadily increasing. Now, it's not at its all-time high. There were over 1,000 hate groups out there. I believe that was about 15 years ago. And then the numbers started declining. But over the past 2 years, the last year of the Obama administration and these first 7 months of the Trump administration, the numbers have been steadily growing. Now, honestly, I believe again in live and let live. You don't like me, fine, just stay away from me. I don't like you, fine, I stay away from you. But when you start to impact my loved ones and my daily life, when you threaten my safety merely because you are a dumbass and you are too stupid to realize that it's not me that's putting you down, but it's major corporations that are having impacts on your life economically by depressing your wages, by keeping you down, and then allowing you to believe that you're down because of other people and their racial makeup, then I'm sorry, but you are a freaking idiot, and you need to get your head glued back on instead of being stuck up your ass. Okay, now, as a follow-up, today, Sunday, there have been riots all over the country, principal of which was in Seattle, Washington. And folks, if you don't know it, there are not a lot of black people up in Seattle. So when they talk about white on white violence, you have no further to look than what went down across the country today. And it wasn't BLM, which they love putting BLM up in front of the camera so that they can make it a purely black on white situation, when in all actuality, the majority of people that were fighting in Charlottesville, Virginia yesterday were white people fighting against white people. Do what you got to do. And again, for all of you white supremacists that want to come on here and get stupid, that's your business. But I got a really quick click finger which will remove your comments, and I'll block you. So in the words of somebody that I kind of follow here and there, have at it, Haas.